Hi there and welcome to the first part of our project using the Wonderland adventure papers by Victoria Designs. So we're going to start today by making the magazine box. Now with the box, if you've seen the project already, you'll know there's a box and then a lid to go over the top. Both are made in exactly the same way. And you can actually make the project with just the box. You don't actually have to do the lid. So if you want a quicker project, you can just do this part. So we're going to start off by doing the main part. So we need to start with our box base, which is 3 inches by 7 inches. And there'll be 2 sides. And so we need to cut 2 of these at 7 inches by 9 1/4. So you'll notice that the sides, the shorter side is the same as my base. So they'll be going on like that. Then we need a back to the box. Now, if I did it the same size as my box base, it's going to be too short then. I want it to come because as soon as I add these 2 sides, we've got that extra width. So the way I do it is, I've got the 3 inches across. So it's 3 inches plus 2 lots of your width. So whatever thickness, chipboard, greyboard, whatever you're using, whatever thickness it is, to your 3 inches, just add 2 lots of width. Now I'm using 1.5mm chipboard here. So I'm adding 1/8. So I'm cutting mine at 3 1/8 by 9 1/4. So it's the same height as the sides. And then the front, again, is 3 inches wide plus 2 widths. So I'm cutting mine at 3 1/8 by 5 1/4 high. Okay. So let's grab the size first, because I need to do one little thing with these before we carry on. To get that magazine rack shape, I'm going to be marking 4 inches down the side here. Actually, let me grab a black pen, you'll see it a bit better. So 4 inches. And then again, 4 inches across, starting the top right, going left. So it's 4 inches down and 4 inches back. And I'm just going to join those 2 lines up. Yeah. And I'm just going to take my knife and a metal ruler. You could use your trimmer if you wanted to. Gently. I did forget to bring my cutting board, so let me just bring my other side in. Now I've gone through a couple of times it's short, so now I can just follow what I had. I'm almost through. So let's cut that out. So now you can see that magazine rack sort of shape coming now. Now we're going to do exactly the same on the other. So that's all I'm doing is, rather than measuring again, just placing it on top, butting my knife against it, and cutting. Of course, if you're using a trimmer, just measure it again, that's fine, or use this as a template and just take your pen down. Okay. I'm almost through. I could just take my knife and scissors and so now we've got 2 of our sides cut with that 4-inch triangle out. Okay, so all my pieces are now cut and ready to go. So now we're ready to start putting our box together. So one way of doing it would be using construction strips. So this is just a 1-inch piece of black cardstock, which I've scored then at 1/2 inch. And you just fold them into right angles like that and cut them to the width you like. So this one would fit across the box side along the bottom. So you just glue it onto there and then glue your base on top. So that would give you your 90-degree construction there. But then the inside would be quite visible. So we're going to be lining it with black cardstock, but obviously we won't be able to go up to the line. So you could just take your black marker and before you build it, just take your black pen around the edge and then we could just line up on the inside. So just go around all the edges before you build it together, and then when we come to line it, it won't matter so much. So that's one method, the construction strips. But the method I prefer is using some construction type tape. So this is just frame tape. So I got this from the CoolKatz. So I'll add a link below so if you want to get it. It's quite a papery type material and it's good for construction. You can use it to attach it together. It's acid lignin free, so safe for our papers and things. So I'm going to grab my scissors and we're going to just take the base and we're going to cover it in tape. So if you've seen some of my other videos, you'll have seen me using this tape many times, but if not, don't worry, I'm going to take you through how to do it. So I've just pulled my tape, I'm just sort of weighing down just off camera there, and I'm taking my base piece here, the 3x7 one, and I'm placing it down the centre of my tape. So it's half there and half there. And I've just given it a wiggle to get it to attach. And I'm just lifting it up and attaching that short side. Now I need just to pull my tape a little bit more. Keep it nice and tight. And place my third side. And then the next one. And then just enough to overlap on the final side. So I'm just going to cut it off. I'm going to pull it tight and connect it there. So now it's going all the way around, touching all 4 sides. I'm just going to pinch the corner so I can see a little line. Just give them a little pinch, top and bottom. So when you're not on camera, trust me, this is much easier. But trying to get it in shot is probably trickier. So it's a bit hard to see now because I've already done that black bit. Maybe if I turn it over, here we are. Here's one I haven't used the black marker on. There's the corner of my chipboard. So I'm just going to go in and cut out a V shape towards that corner and pull it off. And I'm going to do that on all 4 of the top ones. So this way you've got to make sure you don't put it down because we haven't done the bottom part yet. And turn it over. So it's hard to see with the black on black there. You'll see it maybe a little bit better when I do the other ones. Okay, so now I've just mitered all those corners and I'm just going to take my finger across the top to get attached and just pinch it gently from the middle and out. So I'm just rubbing it on to make the contact, just gently pinching and rubbing my finger over just to start that contact. And once we're ready, just pinch down on the middle and run your finger down. Then make some contact. Oh, I haven't cut off that V. Were you all shouting at me? So pinch and press. And the first time I did this, believe me, it wasn't the prettiest, it wasn't the tidiest, but it comes with practice. So we've got now our tape all the way around on both sides. I'm just going to take my Teflon tool and I'm just going to press it all down. So the tape and this tool both come from CoolKatz. So have a look at their shop down below. You can find the tools. So you can see the tape now is nice and neat on both sides. So that's the base. The box front is going to be exactly the same. So I'm just going to place it half on this side and half on that side, just down the middle, keeping my tape nice and taut. It is a lot easier, trust me, when you're not trying to keep things in frame for a camera. And then just trim off. Pull it over that corner, make the contact there. Then we're just going to trim the corners. So if the triangle sticks to your scissors, which it inevitably will, get in the habit of taking it off, because otherwise it will stick to the next bit you're cutting. I tried doing it without taking them off once and it wasn't pretty. Now, so we've covered all four sides. Again, make the contact, pinch a little bit, then start from the middle out. Make the contact, pinch, and take it out. Pinch it to make the contact, and out. Take my tool. And then the back is the same again. So just down the middle, cut off some extra. Make the contact. Just give the corners a little pinch. Go in. And cut out the V. And turn it over, do the same. And same as did with the other two, we're just going to make the contact. Pinch it over. So you can see once you've got the hang of it, it's pretty quick. Okay. And just, so if you did have a little crease or something, your Teflon tool, your bone folder, it'll get it out. And now the sides are pretty much, it's the same again, just we have these two extra bits which I'll just show you now. So I'm going to start on the base. See, one of the triangles has found his way on. So we're going to half on there, just the little. So I'm just using the corner of my table, which you can't see off camera. It's just on the edge of the table, so that's something stopping it from rolling towards me. Like I say, when you're not filming it, it is a lot easier. Sometimes what I do is just put my other scissors just in the middle, just to weight it down. So that just keeps it in place there. Or the edge of a coffee table works too. Okay. There we are. So we're just going to pinch those corners. Not so much of a corner there. Let's bring in our scissors. Let's do the 90-degree ones first, because we know what we're doing there. We're just going around as before, cutting off our corners. So if you're using the construction tape method, construction strip method, this is obviously all the way, you're just taking your black pen all the way around, just to hide the workings of the inside of a box. So that's all this stage is doing. It's just giving it that nice little finish. Okay, and then with those angled bits, again, we're just going to do exactly the same, but just not as sharp a V, just a tiny V towards that corner. And again here, just a tiny V. Or if you just want to go straight down, you can. So let's start with the base. Let's fold that over. Then the back, the long side, pinch and press, and the short side. So those were exactly the same as before. This one is exactly the same as before. And now this is just that angled one. You can see by making those V's smaller, we get a nice finish there with the mitered tape. And then just burnish it all down. Let's get rid of that little triangle. And the last piece now is our other side. Oh, that's because I haven't weighted it down. Just put my scissors in there now. Keeping it nice and tight. Now, if you look at this now, it hasn't come back perfectly. I must have gone a bit wonky at some point. It really doesn't matter. This tape is so forgiving. You don't need to be perfect. So this is my small V because it's on that diagonal piece. The other side, so small V, small V, just cutting towards the corner of my chipboard. And now press them all down. Okay, so there we have all our pieces just lined with our construction tape. So what I'm going to do now is, before we start assembly, I'm going to decorate the inside of my box. So for that, these are the papers I'm planning on using on the outside from the Wonderland adventure. But I've also got some black cardstock and my trimmer. So let's line everything up. Let's move our scissors, we won't need that for a bit. So our box base was 3 by 7. So I'm going to cut a strip. Let me go this way maybe, at 1/4 inch smaller. So 2 3/4 by 6 3/4. That's gonna line my base. Then my front, I can just use what was left over, I think. Yep, on my front. If you want to cut one exact, you'll just cut it at, forget about that bit because your chipboard's going to cover there, so 3 inches will be fine here as well, by 5. So 3 by 5 if you want to cut one. Then we've got our long back, again, 2 3/4, and it was by 9 1/4, so let's go back 1/4 to 9 inches. So that's a 3 by 9. And then we want 2 pieces, and be brave and cut them at the same time. So they were 7 by 9 1/4. So let's look at 7. So we're going back to 6 3/4 by 9. So now, this is the inside, make sure they're the opposite way round. I'm just going to line up my first sheet with the little black border around all 3 sides, but obviously you can't see any chipboard there because we're going to cut it across. Now for this I will need a pencil. which is, here we are, I knew I had one ready. So here's the edge of my chipboard, so I'm just going to come in a little tiny bit, and a little tiny bit there, and join them up. I'm going to risk it. I'm going to cut them together. Let's see if this risk paid off. If not, I'm just going to have to cut another one, aren't I? So there's one. And flip it over. And two. The risk did pay off. So all I'm going to do now is take my glue. You could use your strong double-sided tape as well. But you want to get nice and close to the edge. Because the album is going to be dropped in and out, make sure you get nice and close to the edge on the top and that diagonal piece at least. Because otherwise your album will catch on the way in. I'm just going to place that and take my tool. And the glue I'm using is the Cosmic Shimmer acrylic glue, and this does dry clear. So if I get a little bit squirting out, I don't mind, because at least then I know that edge has been stuck down. So let's take it up to the edge. Go. So there's the sides lined. It's got the liner on those. The back, flip it over just so I've got the measurements in case I need to remember them later. But don't worry, I've got the measurements. I'll write them all down in the description below. Now, with this one, you'll find that you've got a bit of extra here and here of the tape showing. That's because the chipboard is going to come and cover from here to here and here to here. So that's why it's a bit narrower. And same here. You'll find that the base will be much closer to all four edges than the other two, because we added that 2 extra width, the extra 1/8 of an inch. There we go. So you've got the base, the front and the back, and the 2 sides, all lined in our black cardstock. So it doesn't need to be thick cardstock, because it's just there to tidy up the inside. So normally now I would let these dry a little bit, but let's get going. So this is now where you would start using your construction strips, and you would build up. So here's the long one. So if you're using your construction strips, what you want to do is just cut off diagonal, otherwise you're going to end up with lots of bulk in those corners. You would glue onto the base first, because this bit now is going to go there. So glue onto the side and then slide your base on and stick. Okay, you don't want to be putting it base and then, because you're going to get that extra 1.5 mil high, and your fronts will be different as well then, because they'll be too wide, because you've come in 1.5 mils from each side. So that's 3 mils, so it's quite a difference. Okay, so stick the side, stick the base, take the next one, stick it to the side, and then stick it to the base. And what you can do then as well with your construction strip is, if you score at half and then an extra 1/8, you'll get a very thin U shape, and you can use that then just to neaten any edges which will be exposed at the end. Okay, but because I'm using the tape method, I'm going to grab the tape and I'm going to grab and prepare the base piece. Now this is the inside, so this will be on the outside. So what I'm going to do is work on the outside, and I'm going to take a strip which is about 1 inch wider on each side and go, so my tape, you can see, is half covering the chipboard and half exposed there. Now mine has folded over here. Don't worry, I can use it now because a lot of this is going to be, of the edges are going to be cut off. So again, take a long piece. I've gone a bit longer this time just to get rid of that folded bit there. And I've got it half on the chipboard and half off. And now I can find the end. I'm going to cut a piece just a bit longer than, so if you're going to turn it over and put it on, just be careful because that sticky is exposed. So I just find I lift it and drop it on works. And here again. Oop. I had it sticky underneath. There we are, sticky up. And drop it on. So you don't have to be exact, just roughly halfway. So let's have a look at what we've got so far. So we've got our base. As you can see, that's where it is, covered on all 4 sides. And I'm just going to come down to that corner and here and cut it away. Any extra bit, just chop it off. So we're coming towards that corner on both sides. Any extra, just cut it off. So come around, let's cut towards and cut towards. So that's our base prepared. So now I'm going to bring in my first side. Now what I'm going to do now, I'm going to take my side, making sure the cover bit is towards the inside, and I'm just going to line it up, touching the edge of my base. So making contact all the way down. So I've lined it up with the base as it would stand. Give it a wiggle to make sure it's got contact, and I'm just going to let it drop. So you will end up with that little space in between, but then when you lift it up, it'll make the contact. Okay. So if you'd done it so that it's stuck there, when you lift it up, you wouldn't have that space. So let's turn him around. Make sure your diagonal pieces are same direction. So I'm just lining it up, touching that chipboard base, hit the bottom now, so I'm just going to wiggle it. It's made contact with that tape and just gently drop it down. And now I'm going to lift it up just to help me with the front piece. So I want it to be upright, sort of centered on both. Yeah, it's touching the base with me as well, and it's dropping. So this takes me back to like my maths lessons when I was in primary school, when you were making 3D shapes and making a net for them. So now, so the reason I'm bringing them up is because if you remember, this edge is actually wider than my base. Or you could just centralize it if you wanted to. There we have it. So now we've got the 4 pieces attached to the base. You can really see the box coming together now. So that's all we're going to do now is start attaching it. So if you want to help, you can actually put some glue for extra strength. So I'm just doing little dots as close to the edge, not too much glue either, up to the edge, on the top. There we are. And before I bring it up, I'm just going to cut 2 short bits of the tape. Just place it down for me to pick it up in a second. And I'm going to use them just to hold things in place for me. So I'm going to bring it up, line up the top here and here, because that's the bit you're actually going to see, which is going to be quite visible. And then just take those 2 little bits of tape and just hold it in place. Just to give the glue a little bit of a chance to take. I'm going to put some as well near the top here, just to tidy up those 2 joints, to get a nice lined up corner there. And we're going to do the same now. So let me cut some extra bits. Get rid of those triangle bits. Let's get the glue. Yeah. Bring it closer to the edge there. And lift and attach. Yeah. So let's just take those little bits of tape just to secure it in place for now. And there you have your box. So you can finish there, or if you want to tidy up your edges a little bit more, what you can do is take a piece the length of your project, whichever side you're doing. This is the non-sticky side facing you now. Fold it up, cut a mitre, and again, just cut a mitre to the edge. What you can do then is line up the point at the bottom and line up the point at the top, and then just fold it over. So this will just neaten off those edges for you. So let me see if I can show you. This is what it looked like before. So there's like, you know, it could come loose there, but now you've got it totally covered there. So let's do it on this one. So I'm just gently placing it on. Folding it over, mitre in the corners. Just touched it, there we are. This is the one we're working on. Place it down, just gently fold it over. So we've just neatened off those two sides. You could have taken off your bits you used earlier to hold things in place, but you don't need to take it off. And now I'm going to do the same with my front pieces. So lift it up, mitre, lift it up and mitre it, and over. And there you have, oh no, I still got one more piece, haven't I? Nearly finished it. Let's just do the last one. Okay. And then you can also tape around the bottom as well and do exactly as we did at the start and take V notches, and that'll just tidy up the bottom as well. So here's my chipboard, so I'm just making contact with half my tape. Flip my box over. I'm just going around all the way around the base. A little tiny bit of overlap. And bring it in. If it's not even, don't panic. It doesn't need to be. Because most of this is now going to be covered in our decorative tape anyway. So just as we did at the start, we're just going to come in and cut those V's. And fold it over. And there we go. That is your box base magazine rack made, and you could just leave it as it is and just put the albums, which we'll be making later, straight in, so it's the room for the 2 albums. Or if you want to make the full kit and make the lid version, it's actually built exactly the same way. So what I'll do, I'll give you the measurements. But as always, they'll be in the description below as well. So this time, everything is 1/4 inch bigger in each direction. So our base originally was 3 by 7. So now we've got 3 1/4 by 7 1/4. With the sides then, 7 1/4 by 9 1/4. So that'll be our two sides. Our front then will be 3 3/8 by 5 1/4, or 3 1/4 plus the 2 width. So if you wanted to just measure, put those two in place there and just measure across, that'll be the width of your front. Same with the back, which is 9 1/4 tall. And again, to get my magazine shape, I'm going to be measuring 4 inches across and 4 inches down, same as I did before, and cutting those off. So rather than watch me do it all again, what I'm going to do, I'm going to head off and make this, and I'll see you at the end. But as I said, it's exactly the same. Just take your base, your two sides, your front and your back, cover them all with the tape, do the same with the base, and then just tidy up all the edges. So I'll just head off and do that and see you in a moment. So here we go, a quick fast forward, and I've done my lid exactly the same as my box. Now if I turn this one over, the box one over, you will see it's the same height, but the width is slightly shorter and it's a bit narrower too. So what that means now is, if I have my box like that, I'm actually going to turn my lid upside down and flip it over. So now my diagonals are the same, and what will happen is they will now slide into each other. So what you get is a magazine rack with this little triangle exposed of the box, like so. So when you're decorating, make sure you've got your diagonal upwards for your box and the diagonal towards the bottom to decorate the lid. So let's have a look at some of the papers from the kit. So originally I was thinking, oh, I might use this one because I thought the border would have looked really nice along the bottom, going around, so you would have seen it poking out. So that would have been a nice option. And there is a paper which goes with that with some images as well. Some more kaleidoscope type paper. That would have been a nice plain one for the base. Then there's this one with Alice, which has got a bit of purples and some of the wording. So I think this will be the one I'm going to go for, because it also has a matching paper with the white rabbit in the corner. So what I've done, I've just printed a bunch of these. So I've got 2 with the rabbit on for my lid, and then just the backing paper then for my base. So because it is a digi kit, I want to print out, I have got this white border which I will need to get rid of before I start measuring. So let's have a look. So we're decorating the base first, the box part. So if you wanted to just do this one for for your album and not do the lid, then now would be the time maybe to put your white rabbit in that corner. But because I've gone for everything, I'm not using the white rabbit on the inside. So I've cut off 2 edges ready, so I can start wondering. Now, I haven't given you exact measurements for the papers. That's because there's going to be a little bit of human error when you do your construction, depending on if you're using the strips or the tape or anything. So the easiest thing to do is imagine this front as a full rectangle. So the rectangle is now 9 1/4, but because we've got that front and back, it's going to be a little bit wider now. So it's 7 1/8. So I'm now going to go back to 6 7. So go back 2/8, so 1/4 inch. So let me double check again. So 6 7/8. And again, double check the height. 9. 9 being 1/4 inch shorter. So now I've got a piece which is going to fit onto this, onto one of the sides. But again, I've got that diagonal. So I'm just going to grab my pencil and I'm going to mark, here's where my chipboard is. I'm going to come back just 1/8 of an inch and there. So let's join those 2 up. I can't find my pencil mark. There it is. See it now. And draw that line. Let's grab my scissors. Of course, you could use your trimmer if you wanted to. So now I've got a piece of paper which will mat nicely onto the front there. If you find you're not happy with the angle, just change it a little bit, just go back, trim a little bit more. Now, it's just my thing to do is to take my distress ink and I just take away that white edge of the paper. Because I've used my trimmer, and now let's just, if I can get some glue out, there we are. So yeah, this project is quite large. It's making it tricky to get it in shot all the time. Right. I'm also going to put some glue onto it because I don't want it coming off. Make sure I adhere all the edges. And you can even turn it over and burnish from the inside. So just be aware that when you touch your top, anything that's in this bottom left hand corner of this side will be visible, and the bottom right here, opposite to the diagonal, that's what you're going to see. So if you're going to put anything interesting, you want to put it there. So we're going to do exactly the same for this one. Now, just because the other side was one side doesn't necessarily mean that it's true for both sides. Again, human error. So I am going to measure my box and take 1/4 inch off. So it is 9. And it is just under 7. So 6 and 7/8. So 9. Right, so 7 inches back, 1/8. There we are. Okay. And again, I do have that. I better use my black pen. I might see my marks a bit better. I'm lining it up, getting a nice even border around all the sides I can see. And, oh no, this is hand, so I may struggle to see that. There we are. And then just take my distress ink. Just getting rid of, if you can see that white edge. Because when it's up against the black tape, you can see it. Again, make sure the glue, oh, I didn't check if I'm happy with the angle. Yep, that's fine. I'll get some on the box. Get inside so I can get it nice and flat. And that's what's good about the Teflon tool, is I can really rub on my black cardstock on the inside and it's not going to mark. Whereas if you had a plastic bone folder, you might see those little marks you get when you put plastic onto black card. So yeah, definitely a Teflon tool is something to invest in. And now let's just get the back. Another sheet. So let's have a look how wide we were. So I'm now here, we've got that extra width, wasn't it? So it's 3 1/8. So I'm going to go 2 7/8. By my box is 9 1/4 tall, so we go in 9. Gluing on. Let's make sure I got the text the right way up. And then just the front to go. So again, measure my box just to make sure. Yeah, 2 7/8 is fine. 5 inches tall. And grab my Teflon tool. So now we have all the inside decorated or covered in black, all the outside covered in decorative paper, just the bottom to go, which was a 3x7. So let's have a look if I've got any of my scrap bits which would cover. Do you know what? There we are. That bit will do fine. Of course, you could use some of your decorative paper if after making your albums and things later on, you've got a spare piece left over. You can decorate it, but for me, let's save our decorative papers for other things. There we are. So that could be the end of your project if you're just doing the magazine folio one. But what you've also got in the kits are pages with some ephemera pieces. So if you wanted to add a little nameplate or something to the front of the box, just keep it nice and flat. But because we've also got the lid, let's bring that in. Remembering now to decorate the lid with the diagonal at the bottom. So bringing in the coordinating piece this time with the white rabbit. Just do it on this side first. Let's measure the height. So it's 9 still. The sunshine's coming out, so if there's glare now. So 9 inch by it's 7 under, just less than 7.5. So if I go just under 7.25. Yep, that's fitting. Again now, because we've got that diagonal, I'm going to just turn it round just to make it easier so I've got more sturdy area to mark. There and there. Let's bring in our ruler. Well, the sun really is coming out now. I'm just going to have to close the blind quickly. Better. There we go. Right. That's it. There's less shadow now. Again, taking my distress ink. Now, if you wanted more of a shabby chic or distressed look, you could just come in more on the corners and things, but that's up to you. Let's turn it around. I did forget to check if I was happy with the diagonal. Luckily, once again, I am. So let's glue it on. Okay, so here we go. One side. Done. Let's turn it over. Get it nice and firm. And so this one, I wasn't sure if I was going to use it or not, because you're only going to see his head. But I thought, well, it did add a bit of interest to the outside, so let's go with it. So cut off the white. And let's just check we are happy. It's 9 inches again. Yep. And we are again going to go 1, 2, 7 and an 8 this time. 7 and an 8. So let's double check we are happy with the black border. Yep. Grab our black pen. Just mark. So that's where my chipboard's going to be. So back a little bit. It's hard to see in there because it's in his jacket. Can I just double check before I ink and everything if I'll be happy with this. That's looking pretty good. So let's distress it then. And again, glue in, make sure we're getting up to those edges. And those corners, we don't want those corners peeling off. And burnish from the inside. So you can see we get that like a white rabbit there. And bringing in the one without the white rabbit this time. So we are 3 and 1, 2, 3 and 3/8. So I'm going to go 3 and 1/8. Let me check if 3 and 1/8 would be enough for the back as well. We want it just slightly bigger than 3 and 1/8 on the back. That's what I said, it's human error. So that's why I haven't given you the exact measurements. That's 3 1/4, so 3 and 1/8. And 3, did I say a little bit more than an 8? Yeah, so just a fraction over 3 and, what did I say again? Just a fraction over 3 1/4. Am I right there? Still a bit too wide, so let's come back onto 3 1/4 then. I think I meant it was a fraction under 3 1/4. Let's have a look. That looks better. If I remember correctly, my box was 9. Yeah, 9¼ so a 9-inch piece for this one. And the front is 5¼ so I want more of that purple, so I'm going to cut off the bottom, I think. Just have a bit more purpley. Let me just double check again. Yeah, 5 inches. Always best to double check. I think the sun's actually decided to hide away now. It came out for a little bit. I must be careful putting this one on, making sure the text is the right way up. There we go. This was the front piece. So now you're working it as if it's an upside down magazine rack now. So if you have got a directional paper, make sure the diagonal again is towards the bottom. And then there we go. That's the last of the sides done. So all I got to do now is side. On the top, am I going to put a black piece, or I'm going to print off another piece and have it. So I think this will be the front of my box, won't it? Here. So I want the text reading that way. Well, the piece of paper cover, yeah. So let's have a look. This has got the start of the story, so that actually might work nicely on the top, which is 3½. So I want a 3¼ inch piece. By it's 7½. So 7¼ See, I think I just want it a bit shorter again. I want a bit more black showing. I'm just going by eye this time, just trimming off a little bit. I think I still want a little bit more off the bottom. So I think I measured the size rather than the 1/4 inch smaller. There we are. Let's bring in the distress ink for the last piece. Okay. Add in the glue. So if I want this to be the front, I'm going to place the text so I can actually read it in this orientation. Again, just burnish it down. And there we go. Our Wonderland Adventure magazine box. Hard to get in shot in this orientation, I know, because it's quite large. Again, you can make it with just that bit. It would still be quite a nice project. And now you're just going to need something to put inside. So the next part will be making some albums. Here's just an empty case just to show you. We're going to make 2 books to go inside, which will then be covered with the lid. So again, in the Victoria Designs kit, you will get lots more sheets and things. We're going to get some journal pages and some ephemera pieces. So if you wanted to decorate more of the outside of the box or the corners, because you could put anything you want there because the box isn't going to catch on it. So if you wanted a more 3D bit, put it there. But yeah, you could add your own pockets or pouches, but I quite like it. Nice and simple. As it comes, nice and flat, nice and sturdy, nice strong box. So thanks for watching part 1, and I look forward to seeing you in the next part of the project. So hold on tight and we'll get on with the albums.